Hey, how's it going, everyone? So what am I working on now? Well, I have my '08 Dodge Grand Caravan, 3.8 liter. I think it's got 240,000 miles on it or something like that. Anyway, I'm going to replace the mounts, all of them, except the one in the rear. I'm not quite sure about. I might need to do that on a lift because, if I remember correctly, they're not fun. I'm going to find out. I'm going to jack it up and put it on jack stands anyway. But what I'm going to do is, okay, why am I changing the mounts? Let me start it up for you. I'm not going to leave it running long, but let me start it up for you. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it, and obviously you're not going to feel it through the phone. That noise that you hear, that's actually the PCV valve. But you can, I don't know if you can pick up on it. There's a vibration throughout the vehicle. What's happening is I've replaced all the mounts on this thing in the past, but it's been a while. Like I said in the past too, I'm hard on a car. I really am. And I believe that's why they last. 240,000 miles in the original 6TE transmission? Come on. I think it's because of the way I drive. You know, this thing's always at, 3/4 throttle when it's shifting. So everything's lasting. When I've dealt with these things with blown up transmissions and stuff, usually it's people that drive them like a baby. And I don't know. But anyway. So when you have a broken mount, or you have a bad mount, a collapsed mount, what happens is the material in the inside of the mount can allow like a metal portion to contact another metal portion, or it can allow the engine, metal portion of the engine, to contact, say, the subframe, anything like that, and you'll get like a vibration throughout the vehicle, just sitting there idling. And that's what this vehicle's doing now. Just last year, I changed the transmission mount because I had changed the other three mounts. And like I said, I've done those on a lift before, but now I'm going to be doing it in my driveway. The transmission one, I got to take out the battery and that to get to it. It's a little bit of a pain. The engine one on the side by the strut on that side, it's not terrible to change. I got to jack the motor up. Then I got to put it up on jack stands. The front one that's by the radiator, technically that's the left side, even though it's at the front by the radiator. It's technically the left side because it's the left side of the engine. The right side of the engine is the one that's up against the firewall. That one's a bit of a pain, even on a lift. And on these things, the cross member that goes from the radiator support on back to the back by the K member, which is basically like right where the transmission tunnel would be, like right where your right foot is, that cross member, if you ever have to work with one, do not take the front bolt out. The front bolt that's by the radiator, do not take it out under any circumstances if you can avoid it. Take the ones out towards the back and swing the thing left, right, whatever. Leave it in place, because the front bolt, 9 times out of 10, they break off in the frame. And then you're in for a world of hurt trying to fix that. You got to drill it out, whatever. It's not fun. So let's get on to this. I'm going to start with the easiest one first, which is the one by the passenger strut tower. So let's get going. Let's get these changed. So now there's one here. This is considered the front of the motor, or the front mount, even though it's to the right side of the vehicle. The one that's down here, that's a transmission mount. The one down here, that's the left side mount, even though it's right at the radiator. And then there's one back there that you can't even see. We're going to be changing all those. But I'm going to start with this one. To get to this one, I got to unbolt the power steering reservoir, move that out of the way, and then I got to take the air box itself out. I'm not going to show you every little step, but just a general idea. So you have a 13 there, you have an 8 there. This whole box should come up and out once they're out. I don't recall. There might be a 10 millimeter underneath the air filter itself. But let me get this stuff off and let's go from there. There are no screws underneath. Once I took the top piece off, this just basically pops out. It's held onto like a little rubber grommets here. Not a big deal. I don't even have a compressed air at the house, so I can't even blow these things out. Actually, that one might actually be broken. Not a big deal. It's just what holds it in place. So now this mount, it's got 16 millimeters up here, 16 millimeters down there, and 13 millimeter nuts. That's basically all to hold it in place. But you're going to have to hold the motor up. So what I'm going to do is get a floor jack and a block of wood underneath the oil pan and put a little pressure on it to hold it upward. This way I can get this whole thing out. So I got a floor jack on the oil pan. with a block of wood. I have a little bit of pressure on it holding it up. So now I'm going to take these two 13s out here. Once I get these out, then I'm going to take those three 16 millimeters or 5/8. I'm going to take those out, get that bracket off, and that'll expose that entire mount. So let me get these off of here. Now I had brought a 1/2-inch breaker bar with a 16 on it, or a 5/8, just to see, just in case these things were so darn tight, but I was able to crack them free with the 3/8 ratchet. So now with that, we're just going to take these out like such. So let me get these out, and let's get that bracket off. And now with all the bolts out, just lift this up. There used to be a ground strap that went there, that went down to the frame, I guess, and just rotted away over time. But I haven't noticed any electrical issues, so I'm not too concerned about it. So now we have the 16s that actually hold the mount down to the frame. So let me get those out, and that whole piece should come right out. So all the bolts came out with a 3/8 ratchet. And if I remember correctly, when I first did these things, however many years ago, I probably did the same thing, took everything apart with a 3/8 ratchet, although I probably used a gun to take it all apart. So here's the mount out. I mean, it comes right out. Before I put the new stuff in, I'm going to actually, since I don't have compressed air, I'm going to use a shop vac and just vacuum everything out. So here is the new mount, and as you can see, I had actually purchased these from Rock Auto. I got them a while back, I just haven't had the time to do the job. Alright, just want to compare the two. So I'll go over here. And let's just see. Okay, well here, look at the height difference here compared to here. See it? See how crushed down this mount is? This mount is flattened. So, okay. I mean, there we know that mount is not good. It's shot, and you can actually see it's got cracks and everything else. I can't remember how many years ago I changed this, but it was a while ago. So, I'm just going to put that off to the side gently. And let me get a shop vac, let me vacuum that out, and then we're going to go ahead and replace this. Okay, so with all the debris vacuumed out, I'm not going to go bananas cleaning it. I'm not that concerned. Just remember, put this in the right way, the way it came out. That little mounting point there, that's actually for the air cleaner. Make sure that that goes back in the right orientation, because if you put it in this orientation, not that it's going to affect anything in the mount, but you can hit the AC piece. Now, you can't even get it in place that way, so didn't even pay attention to that before, but all right. So, reverse procedure to install. Get those bolts in, then I'm going to get the bracket on, get the air cleaner and that back in place. So now, interestingly enough, I got the bracket in place, everything's bolted down. Check this out. This is the intake air temperature sensor that goes in that tube. There's actually a gap. Hello, stay out of the way. There's actually a gap in here. See that? The motor did not sink. I actually picked up on the motor, and it has not sunk. It's basically in the same position as it was before. So that tells me all the mounts are basically flat on this thing. So you don't want to get it all the way up and in place first. What you want to do is catch some of the bolts. You know, you may have to rock the motor back and forth a little bit to get everything to line up. And then what you want to do is jack the thing up and get the thing caught. So obviously this thing was pretty well flattened out, which means the other mounts are shot too. But just thought I'd show you that. All right, so with everything in place, now I can remove the floor jack. And I don't know if you noticed, but the engine didn't even drop. It went with the vehicle, so that's good. So that thing's sitting much higher than it was before. Now, I got to change the one on the tranny. Like I said, I did this one just last year, but at this point, since I'm going to do all of them, you know what I mean? Since the other ones are bad, I may as well do all of them, is what I meant to say. So we're going to take the battery out, the battery tray out. I've actually learned this recently, and like I said, I've been doing this for 40 years. But in a situation like this on a front-wheel drive, you may as well change all the mounts, in all honesty. Because what happens is, you have one that fails, well, guess what? You got 175,000 miles on all the other ones, or 150,000 miles, or 240,000 miles. Well, it's not really 240. On this one, it's about, I probably did them when I did, shortly after I did the motor, I think. I wound up changing that one that I just changed and the two on the cross member. So that was probably 100,000 miles ago. Like I said, if you watch previous videos, you know that I replaced the motor on this at like 150 5,000, 110,000. It was sabotage. But anyway, somebody that didn't like me. Anyway, it is what it is. So let's get on. I'm going to pull the battery out, pull the battery tray out, and I could do those fast forward type videos. I don't like to do that. I'd rather just show you what I'm doing as much as I can. I'm not going to walk you through absolutely every single step. Take this bolt out, take this bolt out, when it's something that's very obvious. So I'm going to take the battery out, and we're going to move down to the battery tray. Okay, with the battery out, now we're going to take the tray out. There's a 13 down there, a 13 nut there, and there's a 13 down inside there. You kind of can't even see it. So I got to grab those out of there and pull that out. And then the harness actually clips in here, but over the years I've had this harness out a few times, or the battery tray I should say, out a few times for different things. So the harnesses won't stay secure anymore. Not a big deal. I really don't care about it. So let me get those 13s out and let's get this thing out of here. Okay, now with all those things out, it comes out pretty simply. That stud there that sticks through on the top of the motor mount, sometimes the plastic will actually get crushed around it and it takes a little force to get it off, but it's off, not a big deal. So now you got the 15s that hold the mount to the frame, and then these are, I think, 18s or 19s, I don't quite recall. So let's move this out of the way. So really not too big of a deal. I think that mount is just crushed too over time. Probably because the other mounts are crushed. Like I said, if you got one that goes bad, you may as well change them all. Only because they do crush over a period of time. And at least this way, if you're going to replace one, at least start fresh and have them all new. Oh, I mean, if you're not going to keep it, it's a different story, but me, I'm keeping a vehicle. Okay, these bolts took right out, no big deal. These were 18s, these are 16s. The ones that are down in here, you're going to take out with an open end wrench, like a box end to break them free and an open end to get them out. The motor won't drop that much on this side because the mounts that are here on this cross member, this is that cross member I'm telling you about. Never take the bolt out that's up here. Only take the bolts out that are back there. If you think about it, all the weight on this thing is right here, so those mounts are right there. So this end doesn't drop much. This end does have a tendency to drop more. That's why I held it up with a jack. So let me do that. Let me get those bolts out. Let's get that mount out. Okay, so up to this point, really not a big deal. Now, here's where the problem lies. Those two bolts, I got them out and I got them free. They will not come out. You're going to have to stick a pry bar or something in here and pry the tranny over slightly. It'll move, not a heck of a lot. It'll move just enough to get these bolts out. Either that, or you'd have to lower that center cradle down to allow these like stanchions here that are on the tranny, to allow them to go down far enough to get those bolts out. It's just easier prying it over, trust me. So let me do that. I kind of can't video this at the same time because it's a little too involved and I'm going to be blocking the camera. With the motor mount out, you can look and see, or tranny mount, see the gap there compared to there? You can see how much it collapsed over time. Now, I attribute this to the fact that those other mounts are shot too. So here's the other reason for, hey, just change them all at one time. Get it over with. Now, the other thing you can do too is, because like I said, getting these bolts in and out, the ones that go on the side there can be a little bit of a pain. You can also grind down the tip here, like, because that's basically for alignment to get it to line up into the hole. You grind a little bit of that off, it'll help you. So if you want, it's up to you. There's really no reason to clean anything off here. I'm just going to wipe it off with a rag, just make sure there's no debris in there, and we're going to stick the new mount in. Oh, and I'm sure some of you happen to notice that new gun that I got. I actually bought that yesterday at Lowe's. I bought that to replace the one I have at work. The one I have at work works fine. However, it's getting older. It is getting a little bit weaker in that. I forgot how many years I've had it, but it's been a great gun. I want to upgrade, so that's why I bought that. So that one's going to work, and the one I have at work is coming home. That's the only reason that I have it out here. And I just used it to take those two top 18s out, the ones that went through here, and I just wanted to use it, that's all, because I had charged up the battery. Okay, so that's in place. I actually found two bolts that I had, these two, as opposed to using these. They were actually up to that point long, like without that shoulder. So I grabbed those two and I just stuck those in that place. I think when I did this on the lift, it was just much easier because I think I may have, I don't remember what I did, honestly. I think I just had more tools. It was just a little bit easier to do it. So, but anyway, it's in place, no big deal. It's amazing how far away the tranny was from that actual mount just now. Like it was a good inch. So, all right, let me get everything else installed here. Then we're going to jack this up and we're going to do those other mounts. Okay, tray is installed. Let's get the battery in and let's get it up on jack stands. So I got her jacked up and on jack stands now. I'm going to pull the jack out of the way because otherwise it's going to be in my way. But one thing I wanted to point out, something you got to think about if you're using a floor jack like this, okay? And I've seen this happen, that's why I'm just telling you. When the car is coming down, see the position of the handle? As the car is coming down, it's going to hit the handle and push it down this way. You follow? Don't be standing in front of it. I actually seen somebody where the car came down and this hit right into their kneecap and actually broke their kneecap. Just something to consider. It's like something you wouldn't even think about. It does happen. I've seen it. Firsthand saw that. So, and it was not pretty. It actually took his kneecap, broke it, and pushed it down into his shin. Imagine that. Anyway, all right, this thing's on jack stands now, so I'm going to crawl underneath it and start working on those mounts. Okay, so we're underneath now. Here's that front mount. This is that cross member I'm telling you about. Do not take this front bolt out. And as you can see on mine, this thing has smashed curbs plenty of times. That's because if you recall previous videos where I replaced the front struts, the springs had given out and the front end of this thing was on the ground. So that comes from parking lot, like those stanchions, those abutments that stop you. Yeah, no, it stopped us sure enough. But anyway, even if this thing was clean, don't take this bolt out because it'll snap up inside here. I've seen it way, way, way too many times. So just unbolt it back here. Let's see if I can shine a little light on the subject. You unbolt it back here. There's 3 bolts there and 1 bolt there. And then you unbolt these 2 motor mount bolts here from the front mount. And then this whole thing, you can actually swing it, you can actually swing it all the way over to the side because that's in a rubber bushing. So you can do that. Even if you're pulling the tranny out, don't take this bolt out. You're just going to save yourself a lot of aggravation. So let me get these 2 bolts out here and those 3 bolts out back there. Okay, so there we go now. Everything's unbolted, and as you see, I swung this whole thing over from over here. It'll move over there, you know, nice and easy. This way, like I said, if you've got to pull the tranny or anything like that, everything can come out. So I did loosen up the main bolt for that. So now we're going to get that out. We're going to replace that. And then we're going to have to do that back one, which, like I said, is not fun, but we'll have to figure it out. Okay, so this mount back here is actually broken. I don't know if you could see it in the video there. Trying to focus on that. But yeah, it's actually broken. But yeah, so this one's a nightmare. I got this cover has to come off. It's got a 10 millimeter. It went through the side right there, but it actually fell out when I was manipulating it a little bit. And there's a 10 millimeter that comes in from the top that I have to get to. But once those are out, then I can get that bolt out back there that holds the mount in place. And then it's got 15s that go downward. You should be able to see right there. There's 2 on this side. And then at the back side of the cradle here, I don't know if I'm filming it or not because I can't see. There's 2 up here where my finger is. Hopefully you can see that. Sorry if you can't. So I'm going to start working on getting this cover off, trying to get that 10 millimeter out the top. For that, I'm going to use a Gearwrench to try to, or a ratchet style wrench to try to get that bolt out. Like I said, this is so much easier on lift, but I got to do what I got to do, right? All right, so I got the cover out. I was able to reach up through the back side. It's kind of hard to film this, but through the back side here where the exhaust goes up, I was able to reach up and get it out that way. So now I just got to get the rest of those bolts out, and then that mount should come right out. I'm not sure if this bracket has to come out. I maneuver myself. Hang on. I don't recall because it's been such a long time. This bracket here with that big 18 on it, right there, that bracket may have to come out. I don't recall. But I'm going to find out. Let me start getting this thing unbolted. Alright, so I finally got all the bolts out, and it does swing out through the back. You don't have to pull out that mount like I thought, that mount bracket. So here it is, and you can see it's all torn up. See that? Okay, let's get the new one. Let's get that installed. Then we'll just inspect this outside from underneath the vehicle. And I gotta get that front one installed too. Basically, like I always say, reverse procedure to install. Yeah, I'm not comfortable. So it's actually the following week, or weekend, I should say. I ran out of time. I was getting a little aggravated with the rear mount when I was putting it back in, because I could either line up the 4 bolts that mounted it to the subframe, and I couldn't catch the cross bolt, or I could catch the cross bolt and not catch the 4 main bolts. So I caught the 4 main bolts, and I kind of gave up at that point. By the time I get home at night, it starts getting dark, and I have the vehicle outside. So just now, since I'm off today, I went underneath there. I got a floor jack underneath the tranny, and I was able to manipulate the tranny enough to get the cross bolt in. It's really difficult for me to film underneath there, so that's why I didn't film underneath there. So everything's back together. Like I said, reverse procedure to install. No big deal. One thing I wanted to point out, this is that front mount, the one that goes right down here. If you notice, it has a notch on it. That's directional. The notch goes forward, and there's actually a notch in the frame where that thing goes. If you put it in the other way, what will happen is it'll be off center, and then you'll eventually bend this as you go to tighten it down in place. I've seen it done. I don't know how much it affects anything, or if it prematurely wears mounts or creates vibrations, but there again, this thing had a wicked vibration, and my whole goal was to get rid of the vibration. So yeah, so what we're going to do now is we're going to start it up, and we're going to take it for a little road test and see how it feels now compared. All right, so let's try this and see what happens. It's amazing. I've been so used to dealing with the flattened motor mounts and how it feels throughout the vehicle. I tell you what, just right off the bat, I can feel it's nice and smooth. Pretty amazing, actually. Like before, it could actually like rattle a steering wheel and everything else. Like now, it's like super smooth. All right, I'm really happy with that. Take it up the street, see what it does. Just amazing how you get so used to something. But, all right, let's go up the road and see what it does. I tell you what, pretty amazing actually now that I think about it, because before the van was actually starting to kind of feel like a pile of shit. But yeah, it's like it's like being in a completely new vehicle. Like, well, I wouldn't say brand new, but you know what I mean. Like, it's like it's totally changed the vehicle. I'm gonna just stop here and accelerate from a dead stop, because before, when accelerating too, you could feel the engine grounding out into the frame rail. Yeah, it feels perfect. I couldn't ask for anything better. All right, let me find a place to turn around. Now, in case you're wondering, yes. This is how I drive my vehicles all the time. Maybe not to that extreme, but yeah, I drive them foot to the floor. And like I said, this vehicle now has 240 miles. And, it's original tranny, original fluid in the tranny. You drive them rough, you drive them a little harsh, and what happens is the line pressure gets raised, and the shift points are higher. They don't lag into shifts, and it shifts harder. And I firmly believe that's why my transmissions last. I never have tranny failures, ever. Manual transmissions, yeah, because I beat the snot out of them. But, all right, so going back to the house, I don't know if there's anything else I need to do to this. Probably. Oh, and now the ABS. This is a common problem with this van. I'm not fixing it. I know I've mentioned this in the past. But, you see those lights? There's an internal ABS module fault that rears its ugly head twice a year, once a year, twice a year, something like that. And it's an internal module fault. I've already diagnosed it. It needs a module. I'm not going to bother putting a module in this thing. It was for the module for this particular vehicle, I believe the last time I checked it was like $700. You still have perfectly functioning disc brakes, power disc brakes. It's just like a vehicle without ABS and traction control. So it'll eventually, it could actually be off tomorrow. It could last 3 weeks and then turn itself off. As soon as the fault clears, the lights go off. So I'm not fixing it. It's like I said, it's my spare vehicle now. Mrs. Wrenching took over my Dodge because she likes that one way too much. This was her vehicle, but she took over the Dodge. But anyway, All right, that's about it. Hopefully you're getting something out of my videos. If you are, hit that like button. If you could, please subscribe. All right, guys, have a great day. Keep wrenching. And there you go. Pulled in the driveway and all the lights went off. So now they'll probably be off for like 6 months to a year. And then they'll come back on. I'm not going to fix it for that. Because everything works fine. All right, there again. Hope you got something out of the video. If you did, hit that like button. If you could, please subscribe. All right, guys, have a great day. Keep wrenching.